Hey everybody, happy Thursday. I know I'm popping in a minute early. I figured I'd get myself started here because I believe we are going to probably go over. Hello Elizabeth, how are you, honey? We'll probably go over an hour. I decided to use the stamp set Beauty of Friendship because I just, hey Do, I love trees. And I started with the winter scene, and then I did the autumn scene, and I figured I had to do something that reflected green trees. So we have 4 cards using the Beauty of Friendship in 4 different ways. Now, before we get started, I just have a couple things to announce, and then we'll get started. This is the tutorial bundle that I will be giving away. Hello. For the month of October. It uses the Penguin Place stamp set, and there's 15 tutorials. So this is either available for sale or I'll send it to you free when you place an order. This is my stamp of the month, the Be Jolly. I did do a weekly showcase using this. Hello, Karen. I know. I am so sorry, Karen. I feel for you. I know that feeling, and it is the worst thing in the whole world. So this is the stamp of the month, and if you purchase the stamp set from my online store, you'll get these 3 make and takes from me. And this is the host code that you would need to use, HESX7NJG. And then for sharing the video, the winner for last week was Sonia De Silva. So Sonia, if you can PM me your address, I would greatly appreciate it. And Karen, hey Kathy. Karen, did you get my package yet? And did I put your stamp set in? I just looked at my shelf, and I'm hoping that I stuck your stamp set in your envelope. If not, please let me know. Okay, so the winter card and the fall card, we're going to do some blending. So I am going to leave those to the end because you know what happens when I start getting myself into some ink. Oh, you didn't receive it yet. Okay. Thank you so much, Karen. Well, when you do receive it, and you should be getting it. I sent it out on Saturday. Just let me know if I put your stamp set in, please. So let's start with one of these 2 cards. Maybe we'll start with this one. It's pretty simple. I used Old Olive, Mossy Meadow, and Old Olive ink, and the layering circles, and then just the plain inside. Okay, so let's do this one first, and I'm going to pull out this card. So while I'm thinking of it, if you place a $35 order or more before tax and shipping, I will send you tonight's make and takes, plus a swag bag with some goodies and half a pack of 6x6 Designer Series paper, just so I can get that off my desk. Okay, So we're going to start with an old olive layer, and it's 8.5 by 5.5. I will have all the dimensions on a PDF tomorrow. I'm hoping that I'll get it out by 12. I can't guarantee it though, because we have, thanks Jean, we have two doctor's appointments tomorrow. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to have a chance to get it finished in time for 12. If not, it will get there during the day tomorrow. Okay, so old olive, 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4.25. Then I have a layer of mossy meadow, and this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and I am going to adhere this to the front of the card. I'm going to use glue tonight because today I wasn't having very much luck putting on my layers evenly, so instead of making a mistake, I am just going to use glue tonight. Okay, now the next layer is basic white, and this layer is 5 1/4 by 4. Now you'll notice there is a piece of the tree sticking out, and actually what I did, oops, let me just pull this stamp. This is the beauty of friendship. And I'm just going to grab my old olive. Now, the way we can do it is ink up your stamp, and then you don't want it to be in the center. We want it to be a little bit to the left of this card. So we're going to stamp this down, and the stamp gives you the light and the dark, so we don't have to double stamp it. And then you would take your layering circle die and center this onto your layer and run it through your Big Shot. Okay, I also used the Bark 3D embossing folder. So once the circle is cut out, it would need to be run through again with the embossing folder. But to save this step, I actually have my 5 1/4 by 4 piece, and I already cut my circle and just taped it in the back. To save the step of having to run and cut it with the, hey Margaret, how are you, honey? So let's ink this one up, and where I already have my circle cut, let's just put this tree right about there. Okay, like I said, I already ran it through, so we're going to very carefully, I used a little bit of tape. Let's just take this tape off. Do it as carefully as I can so I don't ruin it. Oops. Okay, so we got that. Now I'm going to grab my Bark 3D embossing folder. Now you'll notice on the embossing folder, I don't know if you can see that, but the lines to the bark are running left to right. I actually want the bark to run up and down. So I'm going to take my layer. I want the embossed upright. So we're going to feel this. This is the smooth side. So we want to put the front of our paper on the smooth side, and we're going to lay it right up against this line. You can see the line. And we want our ridges of our tree bark to go up and down on this card. So we're going to run this through. Give me 1 second. Run this through really quick. Ugh. That was a tight squeeze. Okay, so now our layer is embossed, so it looks like the bark of a tree. Hi, Dawn. How are you, honey? And we're actually going to take this layer. Let's just make sure now that we ran it through the Big Shot, it does change the size of the paper. So I just want to make sure it'll fit, and it will. And we are going to, again, adhere this to the front of the card. Now you can see here is the, going to make sure it's opening the right way. Here's the bottom of our tree, so that has to go towards the opening of the card. Make sure that's centered. And then there is that layer. Now I took a layering scalloped oval circle and cut it out in the old olive. And we are going to pop this up right over top of this mossy meadow circle. So you just want to, again, just, get it on there so it's pretty much over that circle. You're still going to see a little bit of the tree coming out of the side. Now we're going to take the circle that we stamped and die cut, and before we go anywhere, we're going to grab the hello, and we are going to grab some mossy meadow, and we are going to just stamp hello. Make sure this is straight right here on this circle. Pull our card back in, and we're going to adhere this to the scallop circle. I keep calling it an oval. Now we're just going to get it lined up a little bit with this section here. We want to make sure our hello is straight. That looks good, and it's centered on our circle. Hello, Facebook user. Okay, so then we're going to grab our genial gems, and we're going to grab the soft seafoam ones, and we're just going to embellish the front of this card. Put one under the hello. Oops. A little piece of fuzz. And then for the inside of the card, I kept it very simple. I stamped off, so let me get a piece of scrap paper, if I can find one here. There we go. And we're going to grab our old olive again. We're going to put in a layer of mossy meadow, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and a layer of basic white. And this is 5 1/4 by 4. I'm just going to grab this little pad here. And I'm actually going to put this piece of paper, because we're going to go off the page. So we're going to just ink up, stamp, pull in our card, and go about halfway and stamp it on the inside. Grab our glue. Add it to our mossy meadow. Pull in our card. Oops, look at that. I got ink on my finger. I'll just get that off. And let's adhere this to the inside of the card. Nice, quick, and easy card. And there we go. Now, if you wanted to add a bow, a thank you, you can actually use any sentiment you want for this card. But it's nice, quick, and easy just to say hello. So I hope you like that one. Hi, Liara. Hi, Julie. How are you? Hey, Kathy. Okay, so let's jump to card number 2. Perfect masculine card using the beauty of friendship and the matching designer series paper. So we are going to start with Early Espresso. And again, it's 8.5 by 5.5. And we are going to score it at 4 1/4. We're just going to change to the portrait, put it in the portrait way instead of the landscape. Then I have a piece of crumb cake, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And we are going to just adhere this to the front of the card. And again, I'm going to use the glue so we can make sure that I get this on here straight. I've been having trouble for some reason getting everything cut straight. Whatever the problem is, I'm not sure. Okay, so now I'm going to use, instead of embossing a layer, I'm using the wood grain on the front of the card. And this is the designer series paper, Beauty of the Earth. And this is 5 1/4 by 4. And we're going to layer this on the front of the card. So let's just see how this opens. And that looks good. Okay. We're going to take another layer of the Early Espresso. And this layer is, I actually lost my other ruler. I don't know what I did with it. It is 2 by 5 1/4. And we're going to layer another piece of DSP. Now, this is the DSP we used for the front. All I did was turn it over, and we're going to use the side with the leaves. And this is 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And we're going to layer this right on top, making sure it's centered. Just going to lift it up so I can make sure I have it on here. Because like I said, I just haven't had a good time. Make sure it's right. And it looks good. And then we're going to pop this up onto the front of this card. Now this time I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it down the center. On this one I put it to the right a little bit, but I think I'm going to line it up right in the center of this card tonight. That looks about right. Okay. Yep, I guess it looks straight. Okay, then I grabbed the Stitch So Sweetly, and this is the rectangle that is 2 by 3 1/4. And then I cut a piece of basic white to fit inside the stitching on this die. And this one measures 1 3/4 by 2 7/8. And it just fits inside that stitching. Okay? So let's put that aside. I'm just going to pull this in again. Now using the I got all my stamps here, so we're using the trunk and the branches and then the top of the tree. So for the trunk, what did I do? It's right here. We're going to pull in the soft suede. Now it is, you can see it is a bit bigger. Now I want the top of the tree mostly on here. So we're going to stamp this, and part of our trunk is going to be off this piece, which is fine. I just stuck my finger in the ink again. So let's stand up. We want to make sure that trunk is straight, and it's going to be a close fit for the tree itself. So we're just going to stamp this just like that. And we're going to put away the soft suede, and we're going to again grab our old olive, and this stamp is just like the other tree we used. It'll give us the dark and the light. So we're going to ink this up. Now we have to line this up so it fits right over top of all the branches in this tree. And we're going to stamp this down. And it gives us a beautifully shaded tree. So let's just put that aside. Grab our card, and all we're going to do is adhere this right to the center. Going to get it in between all our stitch marks. And then we're going to take this piece, and I'm going to put it over, just over to the left tonight. So I do want to pop this up. So I'm going to add my dimensionals, to the right-hand side. We don't want to add it to the left-hand side because we would have to, let me just see here. I'm going to put one more here because we already popped this layer up. If we were to add dimensionals here, we'd have to use 2 to bring it up an extra layer. Okay, so we're going to just center this top to bottom. And before I do that, we're going to do one more thing before I forget. I knew I was going to forget something. Thank you, Marilyn. Thanks. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I have the early espresso, and I cut this out of with the Stitch So Sweetly dies. And I just see what I did if I cut this one in half, and I did. Okay, so I am just going to cut this in half, and I'm probably going to have to use new dimensionals. That's okay. My mistake. And then I cut it out again in the crumb cake. And again, I'm going to cut this piece in half also. Okay? And on the crumb cake one, we're going to grab our thank you. And the thank you is also from the Beauty of Friendship stamp. And I'm going to grab my soft suede. And we're going to stamp thank you. And it should fit right in this arch here. So we're going to ink it up. And we're going to put it right in that arch. Just like that. And we're going to grab our two pieces. And we're going to adhere this to the early espresso. You just want to make sure, look at that, I got ink on my thumb again, that it's lined up right. Yep, see what I did? And we're going to tuck this right under this piece. And you want to make sure it's on there straight. Okay? And I'm going to just add some glue right here. Now we can take this and we're going to pretty well center it, but I want a little piece to fall over the edge here. So let me just make sure. Okay. And then we are going to again grab those genial gems. And my pokey tool disappeared. And we're going to just add one on this corner. And one down here on this corner. And that is the front of our card. Now, here it is. Okay, so for the inside, I'm just looking here. We have a layer of the basic white. Let me just make sure I cut this right. And I did. And then I have to quick grab, I didn't cut my centerpiece, so give me 1 second. Never fails. You're going to use a crumb cake layer, and this is going to be 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. How I forgot that piece, I'm not sure. Okay, just making sure I cut it right. Okay, and for the inside of this card, all I did was layered a piece of the DSP and a piece of the crumb cake. So let's grab our layer. We're going to glue our crumb cake down first. And I'm going to put it right against the edge on the bottom. And then we're going to do the same thing with the DSP. sure it's on there straight. Grab our scissors. Trim that off. Add some glue to the back. Pull in our card and adhere this to the center. Okay. Now there's card number 2. It's a thank you, Kathy. Thanks, Dawn. Perfect masculine card. Could change this if you wanted to extend this out a little bit and put happy birthday. You could add happy birthday instead of a thank you. So that's card number 2. Let's go to card number 3. This is our winter scene. And this one will be a little, I guess, a little easier than the other card. So we're using Misty Moonlight, and again, 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Then I have a layer of Night of Navy, and this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. This is just, you don't really need this layer, but it does frame the basic white blended layer really nicely. So we're just going to put this on here before we start blending. Now, if you were with me last week, I did the Halloween cards, and I did some blending of the Halloween cards. And I had said that it's hard when you're using paper. It's nicer, and I showed you my glass mat. Thank you. And I also said that you can use the silicone mat that Stampin' Up! Has. And that's what I'm going to use tonight. So here's my basic white, and it's 5 1/4 by 4. Now what I did was I took mask paper, and it's sticky, and I laid it on a piece of cardstock, and I actually punched it with my punch to get me the moon. And we're just going to lay this down on the front of this card because we want the moon to be the lightest part of our card. We're going to grab our blending brush, and all we're going to do is grab our Misty Moonlight, and we're back to Balmy Blue. We're going to use the lighter color first. And all we want to do, you're going to ink up your brush. You want to start off your page and then bring it onto your page. And we're just going to get this ink blended to get our nice wintry sky. I'm going to come down a little bit. We are going to put our snow down, but we're going to wait a little bit. So I'm going to leave that right now, and we're going to jump over to the Misty Moonlight. You want to try to always start with your lightest color. Okay, and then now we're going to do our edges. You don't want to get all your color on there at the same time. You're going to want to keep adding color to your brush. We're going to add color to the sides. We're going to bring it up to this moon a little bit. You don't want the sky blended perfectly. We want to show that, you know, there's some white puffy clouds in that sky. So we're going to just keep blending these edges until we get a nice darker color to contrast the white and to contrast the balmy blue. Okay, so we're just going to go around adding our color. I'm going to hit this side again. And I'm going to close this one up. I hit my nail again. We're going to grab that balmy blue, and we're just going to go over the edges just a little bit. I want to hit this across the bottom and give it a nice blend. Okay? You can go darker, you can keep it lighter. Now, what I want to do is, and I'm going to move my card for a second and move everything out of the way just for a second. What you want to do now is, I have a spray bottle. I'm just going to add some water into my palm, and I'm actually going to wet my fingers and flick some water onto this layer. You want to make sure you get it all over. You don't want to oversaturate it because you do want to see these dots. It's almost like a bokeh background. I'm going to just dab off some of these puddles so it doesn't run. Okay. Of course, I didn't add that much color right here, so you're not going to see any dots, but wherever the water was splattered, you're going to see your dots. Okay. Now, let's pull off our mask. And you see where I didn't hit the moon right there? Let's just cover this up again. I'm going to go over just so we have a little ridge of color. I don't want that moon to disappear into the sky. So we want to make sure. Nope, that's better. Okay. So we take that mask off. Now we have our brush. We're just going to go around on the moon just a little. We don't want it to be stark white, but you want to give it a little bit of color. So I'm just going to add a little bit of ink, and we're going to just go around that moon a little bit. Okay. Let me pull my pad back in. And I'm just going to grab a little dauber. Now I have 2 pieces of basic white. Now I'm trying to think. Inspiring Canopy dies? Yes. From the Inspiring Canopy dies, let me see if I have it right here. This die has a nice edge where you could do grass. That's with the trees. And actually I cut my basic white. It was just a small piece that I had, and I cut it, and I'm going to use one for one layer of snow and the other one for the other layer of snow. But before I do that, I am going to grab, I think I did grab this color, the balmy blue, And I just want to make sure. We're just going to add a little edge of blue to both pieces. I'm just going to tap it just so it shows that it has a blue edge. I'm going to let that dry. And we're going to come back and we're going to grab that tree trunk. Hey, Pam, thank you so much. Let me just clean it off a little to get this brown off. We don't want to ruin our card. So I have my tree trunk, and I'm going to grab my Misty Moonlight, and I'm going to grab my piece of scrap, and we're going to ink up this stamp in Misty Moonlight, and we're going to stamp it off. Now we want this tree to be in the moon, so we're going to stamp it so it's in the moon. Okay? Next, I grabbed the pine trees from the Peaceful Cabin. I wanted a single pine tree, and I was going to use the whimsical trees, but I didn't like the way it looked. So I'm going to use this one right here, and I want to put it just about here on this card. So I'm going to make sure I cover up my card, and I'm going to add ink just to this one little tree, and we are going to stamp off so it looks like it's pretty good, and we're going to stamp it right there on the card. Now for the other side, we can't forget this side. I'm going to cover up, and I'm going to use the two trees, but I'm going to now stamp these two trees in full strength. It'll bring them a little closer to the front. So we're going to just add these right about here. Okay. Now we have our trees and our little tree. Now we just have to add our snow. And I am just going to, before I go any further, I'm going to grab my sponge. I must have picked up another color on my dauber, so I'm just going to turn it over and add some blue to the top of this. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going to add some blue. Okay. Now before we put this, I show you how to put this on. I just want to, okay, we're going to grab this smaller piece that I cut out. And I grabbed the Happy Christmas from Snow Wonder. And I'm lining it up on my block with the lines. Hopefully I can get this on straight. And I'm going to pull in my Misty Moonlight again. Get rid of this water bottle. And we're going to stamp this right here in the middle. Okay. Okay, so I don't want this to hide too much of this tree. I actually want this tree to be pushed forward on the image. I want this to be the front of my image. So what I actually did was I took my scissors and I am going to cut up, and I'm going to cut up that trunk on both sides. Just like that. I want to make sure they're about even, and they are. And then I took my first layer of snow. Okay, and I don't like that. So let's see. We're gonna cut this up this trunk just a little bit more, because I want the snow to come up to that little tree on the right. So we're just gonna cut up that trunk. And we're gonna feed this snow, pull that tree trunk up and feed the snow right underneath. Let's see, we're gonna try it this way. Nope, this way's better. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna push it right up. So our tree trunk is gonna be over top. So now that I know that's gonna fit, let's add some glue. I want to adhere this down to the front of the card. So again, we're just going to push it up. Make sure it goes up as far as it can. Just going to tilt it just a little bit. Okay, just like that. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's a big layer. So I'm just going to take out my little cutter. Let me see. Let me do it on the big cutter and I'll be right back. Just one side here. Okay, just wanted to get that one side so it's straight. So we're just going to line this up. And we're going to cut the snow off the bottom. And cut the snow off the side. So now it makes it our 5 1/4 by 4. And then we're going to grab our Merry Christmas and we're going to actually center it and and pop it up onto the front of this card. So let me just grab my dimensionals. We don't have to worry about that tree trunk. We're just going to add 3 dimensionals. Hopefully I got it. And we're going to center this on the front. Make sure it's straight. Yep. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to trim this off. So now we're just going to push this in here, make sure it's lined up against that blade, and cut it off. And the same thing to this side. Let's do it one more time. There we go. Now we can take this layer, pull in our card, adhere it to the front of our card, making sure it's centered on our Knight of Navy. And then I'm going to pull in some rhinestones, and I'm going to put one on either side of our Happy Christmas. And I'm going to grab two smaller ones and add them right here on the corner. And then there is the front of our card. Okay, so for the inside, let me just grab my layers here. We have another Knight of Navy, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and basic white, 5 1/4 by 4. We're going to pull in our Misty Moonlight again. In our little pad. And this time we're going to take that same tree that was the focus on the front of our card, and we're going to stamp it full strength on the inside of the card. Just like that. Let's adhere these layers. Got ink on my nail again. Never fails. Make sure it's on there and centered. And it is. And then we're going to pull in the trim from the Simply Elegant suite, and we're going to add some silver trim on the inside of this card. Now I know this twine is pretty heavy, but I'm going to knot it anyway so I can get a good bow on the inside. And it also helps with keeping it a little bit taut. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, crazy, right? Just didn't know how to get that tree to be more of the focus and to create a front of the card that is a little bit more than just flat. That was really my idea. Just to get a little bit of a different perspective on the front of the card. Okay. So even though I added that knot, it just helps me make it so the twine or the trim is actually a little more taut. And I like to add glue on both sides because it is just a little bit of a bulge there. And then we're going to add this to the center of the card. Just going to hold this down here for a second because of the twine. And then here is card number 3. This one I put the rhinestones in the corners. This one I put them up where the sentiment is. So just a little different. Oh, you're welcome, Margaret. I hope you have fun. Okay, so let's go to card number 3. I grabbed some pumpkin pie, and this is 11 by 4 1/4, and it is scored at 5 1/2. Now let's see. I don't know what I did with my bone folder. Grab another one. And then I have a layer of Bumblebee, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Let's just pull this card out so you can see. And I am just going to adhere this layer to the front of this card. Again, it's just like a matte framing layer. And then we have, again, a basic white that is 5 1/4 by 4. No, we don't want that one that has the tree on it. Okay, so let's pull our pad back in. Now for this one, again, I did a mask, but I did it the opposite of, instead of putting the mask down and keeping the white there, I took a piece of mask paper, and again, it's sticky. I laid it on a piece of cardstock that was a scrap. Took my frame from this Stitch So Sweetly, right? And cut out the center. Okay? Now I want to get this into the center of my card. So I actually just made a mark that I know has to be, and I'm going to just check for a second. That's about the end of my paper right there. So let's just lay this down. I'm going to hold it up in the light. Make sure, nope, it's got to go up a little bit. But I know this mark here is the edge of my paper. So maybe that's about good. So I just want to get this on here so it's centered on this card. I think that might be it. That looks good. And you want to make sure your edges are down. I think that's on there pretty straight. Okay. Hopefully it is. This time I'm grabbing Bumblebee, Daffodil Delight, and Pumpkin Pie. So we're going to start with the Daffodil Delight. And we're going to ink up, and we're going to go through the center of this area. And we're creating the colors of autumn. Okay, so we're just going to add that color right to the center. Make it as light or as dark as you like. Next, we're going to grab our Bumblebee, ink up our brush, and we're going to go over that Daffodil Delight and fill in some more of the white in this area, top and bottom. So you want to go over the Daffodil Delight and fill in some of the white. So you're extending it just a little. Okay. Then we're going to grab the Pumpkin Pie, ink up, and we're going to get these top pieces. And you do want to go over the Bumblebee just a little. You don't want it to have a white area. You want it to blend together. And again, you want to start off of the area that you want to blend and blend into the area. Okay, I'm going to go back to the pumpkin pie. Try to blend that line a little bit. And then we're going to go back to the Daffodil Delight. And again, we want to blend out that line. So let's get that color a little darker in the middle. Pull off our mask. And then we have our area on the front of the card that we blended. So again, we're going to pull out, and I'm going to clean it off. Oh, I'm going in and out. It must be your internet, Karen, because I haven't had any trouble here so far. Okay, so we're gonna pull in the tree again, and we are gonna grab our soft suede, ink up our tree, and we're gonna add it right here to the front of the card. Now this stamp set also has a little piece of ground for underneath the tree. And let me see, I think I put the color away. I want to grab it. Oh, give me 1 second. Yep. I wanted to grab the cinnamon cider, and I'm going to use that little piece of ground, and I'm going to actually stamp off and then stamp it right underneath that tree, just to ground it. I didn't want the tree to look like it was floating in air, and that's the reason I actually used that. Okay, now for this tree, we are actually going to use the second piece of this little tree. If you remember, we just used the one with the light and the dark, but I wanted to add a darker color into the trees to bring it out a little bit. So we're going to grab our tree, and I think we'll grab the bumblebee, and we're going to ink up the top of our tree and add our fall leaves. Okay. We're going to take that off, and I'm going to add, this time, some cinnamon cider. This is the second piece of the stamp, and I'm going to line it up and add some dark to the tree so it really stands out. Then I grabbed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is from Time of Giving, I believe. I don't think I pulled the stamp set out. I pulled the stamp out of the stamp set. If it's not Time of Giving, somebody correct me. Oh, am I? Well, I have no internet, nothing on in the house other than this computer, so I'm not sure why it's doing that. So I have the leaves. I'm actually going to just take my ink and ink up each individual leaf, just so I have the 3 colors to the background on these leaves. Okay. And then I'm just going to line it up right here in the corner and stamp. I'm going to grab my sentiment that comes with the beauty of friendship, and I'm going to grab my memento, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment right here at the top using this square for the refresh. That's my guide, so I know I'm getting it straight. And stamp my sentiment. I'm going to pull my gold holly, believe it or not, the gold holly leaves. But before I do that, I am going to grab some ribbon. And this is the faux suede. And I'm just going to cut a piece that's just a little bit bigger. And grab my glue dots. It must be a Facebook issue then, because it seems like I haven't had any issues on this end, and I have all my everything that runs on internet is off. So sorry about that. And we're just going to bring this up a little bit and just tuck it under this layer with a glue dot. Make sure it's laying straight. And we're going to add our glue. Make sure I have the right side. Just hold this down because of the ribbon. And then I'm going to grab the same ribbon and I'm going to tie a bow. Oh, it's better now. That's good. I haven't had any issues on this end, so I'm not really sure what's happening. Okay, so make sure that little knot in the center is nice and tight. And I'm going to grab my glue dot again. And we're going to stick this right up above that ribbon. Cut our little tails. And then we're going to grab this little holly leaf. And I'm just going to grab a little one. It's a pretty little gold holly leaf. I'm going to stick a glue dot on it and stick it right near that bow. And that is the front of our card completed. Get some stuff out of the way here. Okay, now for the inside. I hope I put this, and I didn't. I put it on upside down. I stamped off the tree and stamped the leaves. So we're going to grab those leaves again. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to stamp each individual leaf. With the same 3 colors, the Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, and the Bumblebee. And we're going to stamp these right in the corner. And then I'm going to grab my soft suede. And I'm going to grab my piece of paper because we're going to stamp off. I don't really want the tree to be that dark on the inside, so we stamped it off right over top of the leaves. And then we're just going to add this to the bumblebee. And then add it to the inside of the card. Almost put it upside down. Okay. So here is our 4th card. Here's 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. And here's 4. So I hope you like tonight's trees. I just love trees. And if you place a $35 order, you'll get these 4 make and takes, that swag bag, and a half a pack of designer series paper. And you'll also get that free tutorial, the 15 tutorial bundle. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. I hope you had a great time. And I'll see you on Saturday, 1 o'clock, as we continue on with our explosion box. So have a great night. I hope everybody has a better weekend, and wish me luck tomorrow because I'm not sure what's going to happen. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining. Night, Margaret. Bye-bye.